night.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to horrornightoasis, a radio show where we discuss all the latest movies and news from the horror world. Joining me tonight, as always, is my co-host, Ian. Ian, are you there?
Yeah, I think so.
How are you doing, sir?
I am doing quite well.
Yeah. Besides all the rain, but that's normal in Kentucky. That's normal. Nothing but rain. But yeah, we're here and we are starting off actually a marathon that is not public domain related, even though we could have put another one in there because there's a new Popeye that just came out, which we'll probably do in another later down the line. But we needed to switch things up, or else we were going to go down a rabbit hole and we weren't going to come back out of it. And that's what it was doing. There's a new Popeye, there's a new Mickey Mouse. Again, we still haven't touched on Peter Pan, and it's just like as soon as you get it's like one of those dragons or something, or you cut the head off, another one grows back, and just like we kept trying to cut them down.
Yeah.
And like here comes another one.
Yeah, them damn hydras.
Yeah, hydras. But we are here and we are starting this brand new marathon, as we call it, our Twisted Nature Marathon, which is our killer animal attack movie marathon, and it is voted on by the listeners, and we appreciate all the votes that came in, and actually kind of discuss some films that we really don't get around to, and that's, we do werewolves and creature features, but we never do like, sort of like killer attack, animal attack, nature run amok stuff. Even though this one kind of fits the creature feature aspect, but nonetheless, it's still a killer shark movie. And we don't really get around to those that often. So it's always fun to throw something in there and have a little fun on a genre we don't normally discuss that much. Besides, werewolves and killer Easter bunnies, which we'll get around to later on in the month. But our film tonight is Graveyard Shark from 2024 from Matthew Peters and Mad Angel Films. And I'm a little accustomed to Mad Angel Films. They're a company based out of around New York, around the New York, New Jersey area. And I've seen 3 Days in the Woods, which is their Last House on the Left inspired film. But I haven't got around to checking out a lot of their other titles. There's a Christmas movie called Savage Christmas that I've been wanting to get around to check out. The sequel to 3 Days in the Woods, which they kind of made a joke in the film with the Graveyard Shark. Sort of a little inside joke. But yeah, it's like, again, I'm trying to get around to more of their filmography. It's just been tough. But nonetheless, here's Graveyard Shark. And Graveyard Shark, the story revolves around Abby and Greg, mainly Abby, and she is a cryptid hunter or cryptozoologist, if you will, where she's going around because of an incident that happened when she was younger with her father, where her father got attacked by a creature, and everyone kept saying it's a bear, something else happened, but she knew it was something not as described and more ferocious and besides bear. Um, and so her and Greg run this cryptid hunter show, and they start learning this teacher, or I guess she's a teacher, comes to tell her to come to this meeting with survivors of potential graveyard shark because of this local legend in town about this graveyard shark. And so it's survivors of the shark attacks. And she gets there, and they're writing down information about each individual person and their what happened during their attack of the graveyard shark. One was a lesbian couple, and that proposed to one another. And as soon as the proposed graveyard shark snuck up behind them and attacked them, um, and then you had again another one which involved you know another individual where again it just all involves the graveyard shark and how they came to be in that particular group. Um, and so as the film progresses, it's just Abby and Greg sort of shit talking back and forth because they're just kind of like that. Um, and then during the shark attack meeting, there's this one guy which I forgot his name, but he's sort of the what would you call that? The comedy
Uh,
factor a little bit.
yeah.
Where he comes in there and he starts like, I've warned all of you, you're gonna die. This person died. This person, I told him he was gonna die, and look, he died. And he's just like the comedy relief. That's the word I was looking for. He's sort of the comedy relief of the film, and he's just coming in there like, if you don't believe me, you're all gonna become a statistic on the paper, and he's just like, are these donuts free? Like, yeah, and the teacher's like, yeah, they're free. And like, good. And then he just takes the whole box of donuts and he can't open the door. So he's, just the comedy relief of the film. And he becomes a more integral part as the film goes on a little bit later, um, which we'll get into in spoilers. But yeah, it's just Abby just talking to people about, like the graveyard shark. And um, then it sort of takes a turn halfway through it. Um, a little bit, but then again, it's just like a lot of shark attacks, and as you see on the poster, I mean it's a full scale, bulky dude, shark attack. As me and Ian both, as soon as before we started this, like it's like where'd this episode of Street Sharks come from? It's like I don't remember Jab doing this in Street Sharks, but it's just one of those banned episodes, I guess, because I don't know. Because there's a lot of stuff in this that just like the film itself is it's not exactly tongue in cheek, but it plays to its merits. Where it's just like a cheesy, semi campy monster movie. There's some decent blood and gore. Practical effects. A lot of intestine pulling, and when the shark is biting someone, there's a lot of really heavy dyed blood just being splashed all over the place. There's nudity, there's all kinds of stuff like that. So it kind of plays up that bit to parts where like, yeah, I'm interested with everything related to the graveyard shark. I like the graveyard shark because he's like again like he has like the spikes. He looks like again like a shark version of Drew McIntyre. Again, me and my wrestling, and that I love my wrestling characters. He's just like that with the way he like does his poses and goes all the way through there with like the spikes and the leather the vest. He sort of has like uh, fish wire and hooks around his waist, and fishing line and lures. Um, Even though I don't know. But there's a lot more to the graveyard shark, and again, and the characters later on and how it came to be. A lot of lore building of the shark that comes into play later on, and it overall, again, I don't. There's really not much there. Um, Back and forth really to really go in depth with the story. That's technically the story where she's doing this and she runs into characters, talks back and forth, and then there's a certain scene that happens with the stoner character, two stoners, and then it just like again takes another turn where it kind of at points it just lost me. Um, it still had its moments where it was really trying to find its footing, but it just didn't really land the way I wanted it to. Um,
Yeah.
with the campy aspect and the cheesy tone. Um, but I still liked everything with the shark. Um, and it's just like it kind of reminded me like this is like the tone that like what the Popeye movies should take. Just like it's just like this is like the exact tone those films should take. Where it's just like not too serious, just sort of campy, have fun, poke fun at things. And, it's stupid. And this one it's just like it doesn't take itself too seriously. I mean, it's just again, it's a dumb shark, creature feature movie, and it pokes fun at itself. Of course, like all the gags later on in the film, there's a lot of sexual innuendos and humor as the film progresses. Um, and again, to it's fun to a point, but to be honest, it kind of was a little longer than needed. Like it's an
Oh
hour and
yeah.
38 minutes, but that could have been down to an hour and 20, and it would have been perfect. It felt way longer than needed. It kind of felt slow. It did get slow there towards the middle, where it's just like nothing was really being progressed um, as it went on. Um, and it's just like again, like I was having fun, but it's just like it didn't pull me in. Like as soon as the film started, it was pulling me in because they showed the graveyard shark and it was having fun and it was bulky and attacking and killing people and there was a lot of bloodshed and gore, guts being pulled out and arms being ripped off, and then it just hit this stride where it's just sort of just nonsensical. Not that it was bad or anything. It just like it just didn't really go exactly as planned. Again, it wasn't terrible, but it just kind of lost my interest and it just became a little bit of a drag to get through. Even though it was like it had its moments of fun
Yeah.
portrayed in there, especially with the crazy character that we'll get into in spoilers, um, and his excursions into the aquatic life. But Ian, I'll let you give your thoughts, and then we'll go back and forth and get into spoilers.
All right. You know what? I absolutely agree. I do think it should have been like an hour or an hour and 20 because it did like it was interesting, and then it just I don't know. It felt like I was on on a nice little path, and then it just all of a sudden turned into deep mud because it was just so hard. It started getting a little hard to get through, but then it picked back up. But it was funny. I mean, it was I chuckled at it. I was just mostly not even at the jokes, but just how
Absurd.
bad. Yeah, like some of the jokes in them was just tried way too hard, and I think that made it funnier than had they actually told a funny joke. Um uh I wasn't expecting the shark to look like that because I just went into it completely blind. I didn't even look at the the poster until after the movie. So I went in completely blind, and I was just like, okay, killer shark movie, okay. And I was like, that's not what I was expecting the shark to look like. I was thinking more of like Ghost Shark,
Mm-hmm.
where it's just an actual shark and it's just like a terrible CGI shark, not a not just a dude. and I love that more than that, because I love creature features like that. And I got excited as soon as I saw. I was like, okay, this is up my alley in absurdity. But yeah, no, it was a fun. I had fun with it. Um, it's definitely not like my favorite, but it was a nice little cleanse of the Popeye movies and all the other stuff that we watched. So it was fun. I enjoyed myself. Let's see. What was I had a particular scene in my head that I wanted to bring up, and I'm kind of out of it today. It's been a long week. Um, so
No, man. Hopefully you think of it. But yeah, like I said, it had its moments. Like I said, it had some good effects for the budget. I mean, it is low budget. I mean, they're an independent horror company. But I think they managed to do it well. Again, like I said, it needed to be a little shorter. And I know they wanted to do this story about loss and overcoming that, and then it just like, again, we'll get into spoilers here, I guess now. Where like the loss of her father was from another cryptid sort of. I guess it was Bigfoot. I don't know. I'm assuming it's Bigfoot by a certain scene where her and the stoners get high and she wants to have sex with Bigfoot. Um, and it's just like one of the scenes where it's just like it's sort of just outlandish and stupid, but it's just like it doesn't really fit the tone. That they're like
yeah,
it was a little out there. Like a certain movie which we don't bring up that often that had that same effect. Um, where it just kind of like we still had fun with the movie, but then that middle section and just like kind of just like for a solid 15 minutes is like, Jesus, man, move on with it. Um,
yeah,
but nonetheless, it's just like it had its moments, but it's just like it just kind of loses its footing where it wants to be too. It wasn't even like tongue in cheek, It was just like it tried way too hard. Um, it's sort of like there's another killer shark movie like this called Hammerhead. It's like Sci-Fi Channel premiere with Jeffrey Combs. Um, and that was like a straightforward, hammerhead killer shark creature feature. And like this one is like take that, but then like add it like another one like sort of lizard man or mutanus, where it's just like campy in your face, just like tongue in cheek humor, and it just kind of doesn't mesh. Especially like, I mean, they're trying to make something, just a fun monster movie, and like again, there's parts of it that are fun. Um, but I just like again, just like that middle section was just a slog to get through because of her getting high and just daydreaming and
yeah.
wanting to overcome like all these things and like the pod the potheads were just like, or the stoners, they were just like, oh man, they're always talking about like
Oh
weird
yeah.
humor and like their jokes didn't land. I thought their jokes didn't land. They're just like,
No.
again, that wasn't my type of humor. In general, it just like it's taking me out of the film. Just them and their dry, sarcastic humor, which just didn't mesh well. Um, and then of course you have the central plot of the story is the graveyard shark, and like again, that aspect I liked because I like stupid stuff like that where a guy fucks a mermaid and we have a child. And like I gotta tell you about this mermaid, and he goes into detail about how he fucked the mermaid, and then you take the tail and you lift it up, and like the song that's playing in the background is
No,
kind of funny
yeah.
as well. And like he's going through there, and he's like, "Have you ever had tuna pussy?" And like you go on, you fist that tuna salad, you have fun with that, and he's just going through there and just talking about fucking this mermaid, and then later on, and like what happened with the mermaid, and like he comes back into it, and like this is our love child. The fuck it is. I was like, I like that stupid type of humor, not the
Yeah,
stoner type
no.
of humor. It's just the
Yeah, that was one of the things I thought was absolutely like golden about their storytelling. I was like, thank you for at least like giving us uh an interesting backstory in such an absurd way that this movie is just, like that's one of the things that I absolutely found like was the most hilarious, like the best joke. And that was just like him being like, are you sure it's mine? And
like
like,
you've
yeah,
been gone
let me go.
6 months.
Yeah. And let me go get the that child
Alimony.
support real quick. Let me go
Yeah,
get that child support real
yeah,
quick. And it was just a
shit.
shovel.
Yeah,
And, oh my god. That was great. But that stoner humor it was just like ice cream references. Like that's all it
yeah.
was just naming ice cream stuff and like relating it to
Two guys, one cup,
what's going on.
and
I
it's
was
just
just
them
like,
eating ice cream.
I see now that was what I was going on. I was saying about I didn't think a lot of the jokes landed,
Mm.
but what I found funny was just how hard they were trying with it. Like I was just like, this is so idiotic that it's actually funny just because of the fact that like they're trying so hard to be funny. And it's like I'm not laughing with you, I'm just laughing at you. But yeah.
Yeah, like I said, it had some moments worked, and like I said, I was enjoying aspects of it. But man, that middle section just, again, like I said, it was a slog of just stoner humor, and and like again, like I I like the whole, okay, I can work with this. Bigfoot's the bottom, and then she sticks her arm up Bigfoot's ass. It's like some of that I can get with if it worked in the realm of things, and yeah, she's high and everything, but it's just like, again, a lot of that just like didn't really was needed, and it was just like out of place. Like, okay,
Yeah.
because I'm assuming, like what, her backstory about her dad getting killed and everything, and she wants to one up or get like her comeuppance, on the monster and just fuck it in a sense for killing her dad. I'm assuming that's the whole point. Um, but again, it just like felt like the joke ran on a little too long. That
Yeah.
was a good like 10 minutes of the film.
Yeah, like I thought it was funny at first, and then I was like, okay, this is going on longer than it really needs to.
And
Like,
then once the joke is over, they still kind of go on with like,
yeah.
like what happened, like you don't really need to explain everything, but
But I do. What was the dude's name with the mustache and beard? That was quirky. I forgot. I keep forgetting his name.
Greg,
Yeah. She only said it a million times. I don't know
yeah,
why. But his whole like mother mother doesn't let me do this. Mother wouldn't approve of that. And she was like, did we have sex? And he's like, ew. She's like, what do you mean ew? I thought that was funny. And like I was like, see, it should have like started with the Bigfoot thing and like cut that most of that completely out and then jump to that part where she was like, "Did we?" Because he's the one that usually wears the Bigfoot costume, and I was like, that would have been much funnier than just taking the joke and just beating it, like after it's already dead.
Yeah.
That was just
It did just kind of just linger on and on and on. And like, oh, okay, I get it, whatever. But and then like again, I like the last act where like they're going after the shark, like everyone's coming to help out, and like you're not gonna go after the graveyard shark alone. We're gonna do this, and then there's another sort of tiny subplot with the sheriff. I guess he's the sheriff, and like that subplot of where he actually raised the graveyard shark um, from a baby. And so like again, that's like a little like you could have just went more into that, instead of just like a throwaway thing. That like extend upon like the sheriff, even though he's only shown up in like 2-3 scenes prior than that. And I don't know, it just like felt like he was a little left in the dust a little bit.
yeah.
And again, I like the antics of the graveyard shark's dad. I loved all that stuff. But yeah, just like again, I think the main detriment to the film is it was just 10-15 minutes too long, and you should have shaved it down, made it more concise, to the point, make it sweeter, because you could have done all that still, all that campy, cheesy, humor, and like Mutanus did that, and it had a bunch of shit in it like that, where it was a crazy looking creature, and it was like, and then she had sex with the shark too. That was fun. Like I said, a lot of stuff at the end I enjoyed. It was stupid. Where it's just like tongue in, it wasn't tongue in cheek, but it was just campy, stupid humor like that. That I can get into, where it's just like absurd. That's it's just absurd humor. But it's just like a lot of stuff felt out of place and unwarranted, and it just dragged the film down a little. And as you said, it's just like that middle section just was a drag, a slog to get through, and it just felt like it just went on way more than necessary. Like I started the film at 9, and I was like thinking I could get it over faster, and I finished it almost like at 12:30. I'm like, Jesus, man. I had a few things here and there, stopping and starting, but still, like I would have thought that I would have been able to get through there, but it felt even longer. Even like I barely paused it, like maybe twice, and it just still felt long. But again, there's aspects I enjoy, but it has its moments, it has its enjoyable aspects, it has the good practical effects, a good creature, with the graveyard shark. I like the lore of the shark. I like everything that happened with the mermaid sex, because it's just fucking stupid. It
really was.
It's just like, yeah, and then you lift up the tail and you do, you go in it like this, you just tongue in a lobster tail.
No, and I do have to say, like, that guy was the most compelling out of all of them.
Yeah,
like
he really nailed down his character. He knew his character.
Yeah, and he's actually a very good actor, and you could tell that he just wanted to have fun with this. Like he wasn't even trying to be serious. And I absolutely appreciated his character in this movie. Out of all like the running gags they did, his was the best. The stoners, I definitely could have done without. Like when they first were introduced, I was like, okay, this is like so bad, it's kind of funny. And then toward the end of the movie, I'm just like, why are you still in this? Like, you should have just been a throwaway character, not like a reoccurring at this point, because I'm just like
they have no reason to be there because they didn't have any relations with the shark. Like they're just there. You know, like they're supposed to be. I guess they're supposed to be like in an AA class or something, and like they're in the wrong AA meeting. You know, they're in a
group therapy.
yeah, and like they're just like throwaway characters that just like become central, which is ridiculous for what they're wanting to do. Like it just like again, it's just downplayed. Like you needed to put the other ones in there that were attacked by the graveyard shark and or wanting to get revenge. You know, like the lesbian couple and the other one that has sex with the shark later on.
Yeah.
Like there needed to be more. You know, because the teacher they get attacked and they want to get revenge on the teacher because she gets killed. And there's just like a lot of stuff in there where like you could have brought more characters from there's a whole round robin of characters, you know. But no, we have to get the stoners that serve no purpose. Just because we need a scene of her envisioning her dad talking to her about what happened and then pegging Bigfoot, you know.
That was so stupid. And I mean, you know, I thought a lot
Bigfoot
of
doesn't
it.
have any genitals.
That's what like that was just one of the things that I was just thought it was so stupid that they even like brought that up. Like it was funny a little bit, but like I was just like you're killing your own joke right now.
Yeah.
I'm like you're just doing too much.
Well, Bigfoot doesn't have any genitals. You want me to just sit on your face? Like, oh, you want me to, oh, you're a bottom. Okay, Bigfoot's a bottom. Oh, that's not gonna work. You want me to sit on your face? Stuff like it just kept going. Like, and then she wakes up, and then like she takes the mask off, and then she wakes up, and then she finds we go on with that scene again, but just like it's just like again, it's just like kept going and kept going, and just like ugh.
Yeah.
It didn't need to be that way. Again, that's the only detriment. Like it's just there's a middle section there where it just needs to be trimmed to a concise, pinpoint accuracy, and it just kept going. And that's because everything else was fine. I was all right with the campy, cheesy aspect of the shark. Some of the the sexual humor and innuendos I was all right with. Greg and his mother's jokes and all the other, the fighting at the end with the sex with the shark and the raising the shark, and it like there's parts it was fine. I was enjoying it. It's just like there's just that middle section was just a slog, and it just really dampened the movie.
Yeah, and that was just one of the biggest drawbacks of the film. But like, I think it was a good blend of, I thought the shark was shown a good amount of times. Like, I felt like I did want more, and I wanted to see more of like the cop raising the kid, like, and the cop having
flashbacks. You could have done that in flashbacks instead of just finding him in the grave and like showing him like through the years growing up as an adolescent.
I felt like there was something
teenager.
missing. That was
and
definitely
like
something.
You can have a scene where like the shark loses a tooth, as a baby, and then like another one like he's sad they lost
immediately
the tooth,
grows,
and then he grows another one back.
That's just what I'm like. I'm like, they relied on the like fucking stoners, like him being in that stoner. I thought was a great being in the dynamic of the little group therapy. But then he popped up again, and I was like, okay. And then they kept doing it and popping up, and I'm just like, why? And like I thought the cop raising the shark was actually kind of an interesting subplot, and I was like, okay. And it felt like they threw that away and for no reason. And
Yeah, and then you could have had like the line that, of course, it's from Guardians of the Galaxy. Like, you might have been the father, but you're not the daddy. Like it had a bigger sting to it. Like bum bum bum.
Yeah.
Where it's just like showing him raise him through the years.
No, yeah, that's absolutely. And I don't know. Like that was just like the biggest downfall about this movie. It's just they they threw away good storytelling for cheap gags.
Humor. Yeah.
And that just makes me sad because I was like, this is actually like has potential to be a pretty decent story. Like I honestly was like, it has a great buildup for a lot of stuff. The monster was pretty good.
Hmm.
I actually liked the way the shark looked, even though it was kind of crappy.
Yeah. Again, for what it was perfectly fine. I've seen worse. I've seen Crocodilus. It's pretty bad.
Yeah. And I mean, like, you do see like him biting that girl's titty, and all they're doing is just smearing like fake blood everywhere. And you see her laying down later, and you're just like, yeah, that it doesn't look like she was bitten into. But hey, that's just nitpicking at this point.
Yeah. I
But I'm
mean,
just like, it's a fine movie. Like we're picking apart at a stupid shark movie at this
yeah.
point, but like, I had fun with it.
Yeah. Again, it
More
could have
fun than
been more, again, been better. I mean, but
oh,
given
definitely.
their strengths, and their, low budget, constraints of low budget filmmaking, the I would, yeah, again, you wish they went one way, as we mentioned, with the backstory of the shark and the father and raising all that stuff. Like, they could have done that. Like, we got how the shark was born, but now we need to see how the shark was raised. And like, they could have took out that whole, or trimmed it down, the stoner stuff, and
Yeah.
like, then it would have been like a good round, wrapped bow on a package, where it's like, yeah, it wasn't great, but there was some substance there, and it was all right for what it was. And then, but with that whole everything surrounding it, just like, it's fine. I like the shark aspect. I like some of the practical effects, but it's not gonna pull me in. It's not gonna be memorable. And that's the bad thing. Like, I was really kind of rooting for it there at the beginning, but then that middle section hit, and it's like, nope, you lost me. And like, again, I like the shark. I like the look of the shark. I like the lore. But when you go to stupid stoner humor that doesn't serve no purpose, that's where you just lose me. And like,
Yeah.
there was no reason. They could have, like I said, added another group meeting member, and like, talking about what happened to them, because they're doing this documentary on the graveyard shark. They could have interviewed them and got more details, before everything. But no, we need 15, 10 to 15 minutes of Abby getting stoned
Yeah.
and banging Bigfoot, and two
Now
guys eating ice creams with their faces, like, oh.
there the ending I didn't see coming. And
Yeah,
honestly, I did kind of find it fitting in a funny way, but like I wish they would have touched more on that as well. Like gave us a little bit more with it than just like a throwaway.
yeah.
Because it
But they could
felt
have
it
hinted.
was
They could have hinted at that too.
yeah, like and I mean, especially considering that that is the most crucial thing to the main character.
Hmm.
Like that's such a big part of her backstory, and it's just used as a throwaway. And I just like there's things that they went too hard on that they shouldn't have, and things that were absolutely interesting that they never touched on. They kind of just tossed it to the side, added it there as just like a
throwaway.
hey, there's this. Yeah. And then it's like, whoa, wait, hold on. You don't just say that and walk away.
Yeah.
Like,
film's over.
yeah, no, oh my God. I was just like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, let's get back into that. Come on. Because I actually want more information on this. But
yeah,
it
I
is
mean,
what it is.
I guess that's going to do it for Graveyard Shark because, again, we don't want to beat a dead horse. And I think we pretty much covered everything that we could with the film. Like, again, it's not terrible. It just loses its footing. And it just kind of, I'm assuming some people would like it. I mean, like, again, I like everything except the middle of the film. And again, it needed to lose the stoner stuff, get more backstory on the raising of Graveyard Shark, or some more lore in general of the shark. It was just missing that. Again, I guess they didn't think it was crucial, but I think that would have made the film that much more enjoyable. Instead of just seeing her stick her hand up Bigfoot's ass. And it's just like, again, all that humor is just unnecessary. Again, I get it. I get what they were trying to do, but you could have still made like, again, Mutanus did that where it was like over the top, campy, tongue in cheek, but they still had fun with it, and like it was just like a lot of unnecessary things was just tossed to the side, and just like stupid creature feature, and like that's what this needed to be. It needed to have a little bit of heart to it, and instead of they just didn't do that. And like there's some charming aspects, don't get me wrong, but it just didn't feel a complete package. It's just, it was missing a lot of stuff, and that stoner stuff really hindered it.
Yeah,
but it's not terrible.
No, I mean, my first thought was, this reminds me of the mushroom scene.
Yeah, the good old mushroom scene.
And I was just like, this because it's just out of nowhere and absolutely pointless. But yeah, I don't really have much else to say on this, so I think that'll have to do it on my end.
Yeah, but I think that's going to do it for our inaugural marathon of our Twisted Nature Marathon for Graveyard Shark. I'm looking forward to the rest of the month and the other titles that I've been looking at, because I have to search for some other killer animal movies. And there is one for a potential show, which I'll discuss off air with Ian. And but I'm always looking forward to it. Can't wait to see how this marathon turns out and our rankings, as we always do towards the end of the month. So I appreciate everyone for listening, and we will see you next time on Horror Night Oasis.
Good night.